People are awesome. People are awful, but people are awesome. I want to file a couple of things here under the category of why people are awesome. Okay, so before we go to air, Chris Mason, love Chris Mason. Loved him as a goalie, love him as a broadcaster. So he puts up a video, Mace does. We got to get Mace on the show, by the way. Note to Zach. So Chris Mason tweets out, I know, but I want to get him this year again. Just because you have someone once. It's the way media works. People's thoughts evolve and they change perspectives on things and new events occur. And so that's why it's always good to have, people come on more than once. Because people have new perspectives on things. And current events change.
My bad.
I can't believe you said that. People are awesome. Okay, by the way, sidebar. Let's go down a sideboard here with Zach. There's dumb and then there's hockey dumb. Zach played hockey for a lot of years.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Compose yourself. We got some serious guests on the show here today, so put on a jacket and everything. So Chris Mason tweets out, head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, Marty St. running the stairs during Pred's morning skate. And it's a video of Marty St. running the stairs. Not unlike we've seen other hockey players, perhaps most notably in the early 90s when Jágr used to do that with a weight vest in Pittsburgh. And everybody went, he's ruining it for everybody else, and now we'll all have to be in shape. But I thought, okay, harmless little video. That's awesome. St. Louis is a machine. I remember being at the Team Canada orientation camp when they did that ball hockey thing in Calgary some years ago on a panel with Doug McLean, and Marty St. Louis was sitting beside me. And I thought that I had seen the biggest quads of a hockey player when the first time I was in the Pittsburgh Penguins dressing room during the ringside with Montreal and Pittsburgh. And I'm like, am I the same species as Crosby? Holy smokes, look at those quads. And then Marty St. Louis sat next to me in these little shorts that he was wearing as they were doing the ball hockey. I thought, okay, Marty St. Louis is going to give Crosby a run for his money for the quads. Anyhow, oh, by the way, side note, I don't know about you, but the biggest calves I've ever seen on a hockey player, Torrey Krug. Just as a side note. Maybe we'll do a show on hockey body parts one day. Anyway, I digress. So I put up the tweet, just a simple retweet. St. Louis is a machine. And I figured it'd be like a lot of Habs fans going yeah, there's our coach. Our coach is tougher than your coach. He can still play, blah, 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 blah. Daniel from @BleedBlue. Wonder where he's from. He's going upstairs, not climbing the side of the Empire State Building. Let's all take a deep breath. But then Bobby says he's looking for a PTO. Smiley face to try to smooth everything out. Anyhow, on that lovely note, people are awesome and people are awful all at the same time. Welcome to the program. This is the sheet for Thursday, October the 16th. Coming up on the program, a number of special guests, and we'll talk a lot about the Blackhawks today, and we'll talk a lot about NHL contracts today. And I just want to remind everybody that as everybody predicted last night, both the Chicago Blackhawks and the Buffalo Sabres each put up 8 spots in their games, commanding victories. With the Hawks, you look at it and say, all right, it's building block for this, redeveloping team, this rebuilding team. For the Buffalo Sabres, you're left wondering, is this the beginning of something new, or is this the dead cat bounce that we've seen before with a number of different teams? Anywho, coming up on the program today, the Blueprint is powered by FanDuel. Make every moment more with North America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. And coming up on the program today, I mentioned a couple of really special guests, and very much looking forward to talking to Mark Lazerus of The Athletic, him and Scotty Powers, the Chicago Blackhawks power rankings. As they've listed on The Athletic today. He will be dropping by the program shortly. Anton Thun, former NHL player agent, who's been through the CBA and the negotiating wars for a number of years, and specifically, contract negotiations. And I'm curious what Anton thinks of this recent phenomena of hockey players, when they do their contracts, keeping in the back of their mind that somehow they're co-general managers of a team, because that's very much the way that it feels outside of Kirill Kaprizov, mind you. That's kind of the way it feels right now. Curious Anton's thoughts on that one because, he worked pre-salary cap and, of course, post-salary cap in the NHL. We will talk about the Blackhawks. We will talk about player contracts. But before we get there, this news from Bruce Garriock, and I'm going to just grab, and like Bruce has been around the Ottawa Senators forever. He is, one of, the authoritative voices and has been for a long time. About the Ottawa Senators, both on the ice and off the ice. And here's a tweet that he put out just before 12 o'clock Eastern. Would expect an update on Brady Tkachuk today and would be more surprised if he doesn't have surgery. This is on the hand/wrist. Tangled up with Roman Josi the other night. League executives have told me timeline is likely 8 weeks if that's the case. Ugh. One, sucks for the Sens. And they could have used him last night against the Buffalo Sabres, who look like, the Sabres of 75 with the French connection against the Ottawa Senators. Sucks for him, but also sucks for the NHL. It's never a good time when, both Tkachuk brothers are out of the game, but here we are. A lot of people have remarked that, it shouldn't be any surprise that both Tkachuks are injured considering how they play. And I think there's some legitimacy to that one. But I don't think the Brady Tkachuk injury, well, first of all, I know it's not from anything egregious by Roman Josi. It's just one of those hockey things that happened. But 2 months, if Garriock's executives that he spoke to are right, 2 months for Brady Tkachuk if he has a surgery. That is no bueno for the Ottawa Senators there. And as I mentioned, massive win last night for the Buffalo Sabres. We're going to get on the Hawks page here with Laz in a second. Massive win for the Buffalo Sabres yesterday. Was really glad to hear it. As you've heard me say numerous times, I don't enjoy watching anybody go through this. I don't want to make light of it. I don't want to, pour gasoline on it. You report what's there and you talk about what's in front of you. Maybe speculate what the future means for the Buffalo Sabres. But I don't think anyone really, outside of like a really malicious and mean-spirited hockey fan, and there are some of them, are really enjoying what the Buffalo Sabres fans, to say nothing of the organization, right from the owner Terry Pegula all the way down to the peanut vendors. No one's really enjoying what's happening to everybody right now in Buffalo. So it was good to see them win a game at home in as commanding fashion as was yesterday. 8-4 against the Ottawa Senators. Zucker with a pair, Jack Quinn with a pair, Ryan McLeod with a pair. The Jack Quinn is important here for the Buffalo Sabres because internally in Buffalo, and I don't think this is wrong thinking, although I don't know that everybody's on the same page about Jack Quinn necessarily in the organization. But there is a feeling that a healthy Jack Quinn bouncing back can compensate for the loss of, 29 goals that the team lost when J.J. Peterka was traded to the Utah Mammoths. Zach Benson, a good sign. Welcome back. 3 assists yesterday for the Buffalo Sabres. Next opponent, the Florida Panthers. So as eyes yesterday was on Dylan Cousins, eyes will be very much on Sam Reinhart. And make no mistake about it, the Panthers have been bounced around here a little bit lately, and they're not too thrilled about that. We talked yesterday with Rick Tocchet about the game against the Philadelphia Flyers and the Florida Panthers. Panthers certainly sour about that one. We'll see what happens when they face off against the Buffalo Sabres. Another thing we should remark upon, something interesting has happened here. Not only have the Detroit Red Wings won 3 games in a row, 4-1 yesterday over the aforementioned Florida Panthers, Mason Appleton looks fantastic in that Mason Raymond spot. And somehow, again, falling under the category of A, it's early, and B, everybody predicted this, right? Cam Talbot is the go-to netminder here right now for the Detroit Red Wings. A save percentage of .932 after 4 games to John Gibson's, am I reading this correctly, Zach? .615. In his one game this year against the Montreal Canadiens. The solution was in the house the whole time. But nonetheless, great on the Detroit Red Wings. That's one of the teams where and first of all, it's been too long. Okay, like I know, like there was a certain time there where it's like no one's gonna feel bad for the Detroit Red Wings because of how many consecutive years they were in the postseason, and Ken Holland every year would trade everybody to make sure they got to the postseason. He talked about the streak, and we have to keep it going, and we're gonna scotch first round picks, and we're gonna send out prospects just to keep the playoff streak going that catches up to you after a while, and so nobody was gonna feel bad for the Detroit Red Wings, but now you're saying to yourself, okay, it's time. It's time that the arena that we used to say was a new arena, it's no longer a new arena. It's just an arena now that hasn't had any playoff games in it. So good to see a good start by the Detroit Red Wings, and good to see a real fun start here, 2-2-1 by the Chicago Blackhawks, 8-3 over the St. Louis Blues yesterday. We are going to talk about the solo Celly here, party of one, Frank Nazar. With our next guest, you read him in The Athletic. You can hear him on The Athletic podcast where he does excellent work. He is Mark Lazerus, and he joins me now. Let's just get the first one out of the way here, Laz. The solo Celly yesterday by Frank Nazar. Like, first of all, he's been, as you've documented, fantastic this season. No, there's going to come a point where the conversation, and maybe it already has, changes from that's way too much money for someone who hasn't played enough NHL games to, man, that's one of the best value contracts this side of Kirill Marchenko and Alexei Protas. This kid is flat out fantastic, and we saw it again last night. But what did you make of the solo Celly after the goal?
That whole goal was just a pure hit of Frank Nazar, right? You got the blinding speed coming down the ice. He blows by two defenders. You've got him the skill to take off that shot. That's not an easy shot to get off. You got the recklessness of him crashing into Joel Hofer. And then you got the pure comedy of Frank Nazar where he just gets up out of the scrum and just starts kind of dancing around by himself and taunting the fans. I mean, look, we do this too much in Chicago, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody. We're always looking for analogs to the Cup years. But Frank Nazar has that Patrick Kane gene in him where he's a performer, right? He's got this inherent confidence. He's got a little bit of irreverence. He's not too big for the moment. The moment's not too big for him, and he just seems to revel in that stardom. Connor Bedard is going to be the face of this team for the next 10, 15 years. But Frank Nazar is going to be the guy who's the most fun to watch and the guy who's having the most fun out there.
Is that going to be so is he going to be the Kane to Bedard's Taves, or am I really stretching things here? Because there is a serious tone to Connor Bedard. I'm not saying that he's Jonathan Taves. Actually, I'm going to compare anyone to Jonathan Taves in the NHL. Is probably Macklin Celebrini. But as far as like temperament and spirit go, is that kind of what we're looking at?
I think so. I mean, it's you can understand why Connor Bedard is a little more guarded maybe than most players are. He's been interviewed every day since he was like 14 years old. The hype he faced, Frank Nazar didn't face that. Frank Nazar is just a guy who went to college and now he's in the NHL, and he's kind of more of a, quote unquote normal person because he hasn't lived under that microscope the way that Bedard is. Bedard's got a big personality. You can see it when like the cameras aren't on. Every now and then, you can draw a good quote out of him. I like when he gets combative, when he takes like an issue with your question. He's not afraid to like kind of dispute you. There's plenty of personality there, but he is a very serious young player who has been under a serious microscope for a long time. So that it's the Kane and Taves of it all. And there's more guys coming. We don't know who Anton Frundell is going to be. We don't know who Roman Kanserov is going to be. I mean, there's more and more coming. But right now, it's Bedard and Nazar 1-2 in your lineup, and you got to like that if you're a Hawks fan.
The thing about Bedard that's fascinating to me is, a lot of players, going through junior, in a lot of ways, when it comes to media interviews or being grilled, a lot of them get a free pass. Right, it's like they're kids, but I remember Bedard specifically, and it was that last year when he played with the last year with the Regina Pats, and there's always a speculation, he's gonna want to get traded to a Memorial Cup contender, a team that can win the Western Hockey League championship. How can they get them to Kamloops? And he kept saying, and no one would believe him. And John Paddock, who was running the team, would always say, look, he does not want to go, and I don't want to trade him. But everywhere Bedard went, he was asked about leaving Regina. And coming out of all of it, even though, his team never got anywhere close to the Western Hockey League championships, the one thing that I kept saying to myself, Mark, was that's got to toughen his skin a little bit, and that's going to be good for the next level. And because he's going to be going to it, we don't know where he's going to end up. He's going to be going to a bottom-feeding team that's rebuilding. And as you well know, if you're going to be on one of those teams, you need thick skin. You need crocodile skin if you're going to survive. And I can only think that even though it was horrible for like a 16, 17-year-old to go through that at the time, it kind of toughened him up a little bit. Like when he arrived, did he seem like a little bit like, okay, I've already got scars from what happened in the Western League. I'm ready for what you guys can throw at me here in the media in Chicago.
A little bit. He was a little defensive early on, I felt, and I can understand that. But it's funny because like his rookie year as an 18-year-old is one of the youngest. I think he was the 13th youngest player in NHL history because he's a July birthday. He talked almost every single day after every practice, every morning skate, every game that he played a big role in. He talked. Remember, Austin Matthews was 19, and the Maple Leafs really sheltered him that front year.
Yes,
that's how it normally goes. But Connor
that
Bedard
was Lou.
Connor Bedard was. Yeah.
That was 100% Lou Lamoriello. There wasn't a Lou Lamoriello there in Chicago, and no one in the media is like Red Fisher of the Montreal Gazette, who would refuse to talk to rookies. That was his rule. The only rookie he spoke to was Patrick Waugh in '86, but that was it. Like Red's like, you're a rookie, I'm not talking to you. Nobody gets that grace anymore, Laz. Sorry, continue your story.
No, the Hawks put him right out there. Like from day one, he was the focus of every Twitter post and every Instagram post and every interview, every jersey they sold. It's been Bedard from day one. They have not sheltered him at all, and he is more than capable of handling that. I think that's clear by now.
Okay, so I love this power rankings that you and Scotty put together, and number one, Frank Nazar, and what a perfect time for this to come out, as you mentioned in the piece as well. For those that don't know him, well, first of all, like last year the World Championships, if you don't watch the World Championships, I highly encourage people to always have a peek. He was a star. Was it 12? Yep. 12 points, I think Nazar had. Just spectacular, right? I remember Hockey Canada took Jonathan Toews, before he debuted with Chicago to the World Championships as well to sort of acclimatize him in that sort of competitive environment. But for those that don't know Frank Nazar and are just learning about him for the first time, fans from outside of Chicago, because people in Chicago know all about him, what should they know about him? Because it's a big night for him.
He's the guy He's the guy the Blackhawks traded Kirby Dach for, a former number 3 overall pick. They traded to Montreal on draft day during tank mode to take him 13th overall the same year they took Korchinski and Sam Renzel in the first round. So he's been a big piece of this project for a long time now. He came into the league for the first time at the very end of 2 years ago. He played about 50 games last year. He came up around December and he instantly was an impact player, but he couldn't score, couldn't finish. He was all speed and, all feet, no hands, which we've seen guys like that come through the Blackhawks system before. Your Victor Stahlbergs, your Vinny Hinostrozas. But then at the end of the year, all of a sudden the puck started going in. He had this run of like 9 straight games with breakaways where he didn't score on them. And he was like losing his mind over it. And then all of a sudden the puck started going in. The last like 3 or 4 weeks of the season, he looked like a star, absolute star, the best player on the team. And then he goes and follows that up with the Worlds, where he's Team USA's leading scorer on route to a championship, which is just does wonders for his confidence. Mm-hmm. And he's just this guy who's got this easy confidence about him. He's always just been like, I know I belong. I'll be fine. It's not arrogant. He's just very comfortable in his own skin. He's very comfortable in an NHL locker room. He's comfortable with the start. If you saw the TNT broadcast last night, they interviewed both he and Bedard at the same time. And Nazar was sitting in front. Bedard was in the back. And Nazar is out there, dropping quips and curses and stuff. Just he's so comfortable in that role. He's 21 years old. This is all pretty new to him, but he's really good at just the being a star aspect of hockey.
I'm so glad that you mentioned, the idea of speed and no finish and red line to red line, great players, super fast, but can't get the puck over the red line. There's another player on the Chicago Blackhawks that always had that reputation, and I used to always make the joke that, Mikheyev is Russian for Grabner. You remember Michael Grabner, who was like the fastest guy, but like get the little round black thing over the red line, holy smokes. But all of a sudden now, Ilya Mikheyev is a, dare we say, significant piece of this Chicago Blackhawks team, Mark?
He was the best player on the team last year. Without question in my mind, he was the most reliable, consistent two-way player on the team last year. And it's funny because like Vancouver has become like an AHL team for the Blackhawks. They just take on their cap dumps and turn them into great players. Jason Dickinson was getting Selke votes 2 years ago. He was a cap dump from Vancouver. And now Mikheyev, you're right, he is a core piece of this team now. Like they're not going to let this guy go. He's a great skater. He's a fabulous defensive player. He's so good in his own end. And last year, the puck started going in for him. He had 20 goals last year. He's got 3 goals in the last 2 games. He plays on the third line. He never complains. He kills penalties. Every now and then when they need a bump, they put him on Bedard's line and they work well together. Doesn't matter where you slot him in the lineup. He's been incredibly effective. And it's just always amazing to me when guys struggle so much in one place and then just show up somewhere else on a worse team with worse structure and all kinds of, chaos going on, and they just thrive.
One of the things that I've always, and I want to sort of dovetail this into Spencer Knight. One of the things you always sort of wonder about too, if they didn't make that trade, would we still be talking about the Chicago Blackhawks this way? Obviously, they'd still have Seth Jones. Not that they need another giant on the back end. I mean, everyone on this team on the blue line, 6'6" or 6'7", 6'8", massive back there. But the team wouldn't have Spencer Knight. If that deal, and there were a lot of people that you can't trade Seth Jones. I don't care what Dallas is offering. They're not going to be able to take the cap hit in Florida, etc. If they didn't make that deal, would we still be talking about the Hawks the same way right now? Or was that crucial for this part of the rebuild?
It was crucial. I mean, first of all, Seth Jones was good for the Blackhawks. People seem to forget that he was overpaid, but he was good. Like, he was a reliable, solid player for them. But if Seth Jones is on this team taking 24 minutes a night, then Sam Rinzel's not getting 24 minutes a night. And everyone gets knocked down a bunch, and the rebuild is kind of stalled a little bit. But yeah, if you don't have Spencer Knight, you probably have Arvid Soderblom and maybe maybe Peter Mrazek's back, maybe Drew Comesso's getting a chance. But what Spencer Knight has done is he's really come in and stabilized things. He doesn't have bad nights, right? He doesn't give up soft goals. There's nights where they're going to lose 5-2 because the defense is just atrocious. They have 4 or 5 guys 23 or younger on the blue line every night. It's going to happen. But Spencer Knight doesn't really screw up out there. He's just reliable. And that's, I talked to Paul Maurice about this when I was in Florida at the beginning of the year, and he just put it perfectly, where when you have Spencer Knight, it makes the gap that much closer, right? Like the talent gap, he kind of draws it in a little bit more. A close game becomes a win. A blowout becomes a close loss. And that's something the Blackhawks haven't had since Corey Crawford and Robin Leonard were the duo. Marc-Andre Fleury didn't even bring that. They've been kind of just cycling through guys, and Peter Mrazek did yeoman's work here behind an awful, awful team that was actively trying to lose in the front office. But what Spencer Knight is bringing, it's been 4 or 5 years since they've had here in Chicago.
Okay, let me throw a dart here with you. I had this conversation at the Combine with an agent. We're trying to figure out where this is going to land. Now, it may just all be different this year based on performance, but stop me when you think I'm at the right number for Connor Bedard and his second contract. 10 million, 10 and a half, 11.
Yeah, I think 10 and a half.
I feel like I should start yodeling now. I'm on The Price is Right. 11 and a half.
Little guy going up the hill. Yeah. I feel it's going to wind up like if I'm Connor Bedard, I'm not saying he's going to do this.
Yeah.
I want to take like a bridge deal. I want to go old school bridge deal and take like a 3-year deal.
Really?
Get that 10. I'm just saying what I would do. I mean, I think all these guys should be doing that. He should take 10 and a half million. And then by the time that contract runs out, he's going to be I have no doubt that Connor Bedard is going to be a superstar in this league. He has shown it time and time again. I know everyone, there's a rejection of him. People had him shoved down their throats at a young age. And they want to see him fail, and they want to elevate Celebrini. They're both great. They're both going to be superstars. And if I'm Bedard, I want to be getting that $20 million contract 3 or 4 years from now. But look, they will pay him whatever he wants. He is the franchise. He is the marketable face of this franchise. He is the most talented player on the team. But it's going to be at least 8 figures. But the way the cap is going, why would you ever take an 8-year deal? Why would you Nathan McKinnon yourself? There were years there where Nathan McKinnon was the best player on the planet. He was making $6 million a year because it took 4 or 5 years for him to become a superstar. If that's the path that Bedard is on, and that's entirely plausible, then why would you take an 8-year deal now? That's just me. He probably will because he's a hockey player, but I wouldn't do that. You take a 3-year deal and then you get the big cash in a few years.
I'll go back to the loyalty thing with Bedard. Like, that's always been him. Going back to like the first time I talked to anyone in his camp playing in the Western Hockey, the one thing about Bedard is, as highly skilled as he is, he's equally loyal. Like, that's the guy that wouldn't leave the Regina Pats. Like, he's like, do you want to go to Kamloops or host the Memorial Cup? No, I'm going to get there in Regina. And it was that kind of loyalty that we all said is going to serve him very well on a rebuilding team, because he's going to be a lot of painful nights. So here, let me get ahead of myself again. Up the gut right now. Bedard, Nazar. When Anton Frondel shows up, who goes to the wing here? Because I don't think one of these three are going to be third line. Thank you very much.
I asked Frank Nazar that direct question last week. I said, that there's more. It's not just Frondel. There's Sasha Boisvert. There's Marek Van Acker. I mean, they had 11 first round picks in the last 4 years. That's what I hate tanking. I think it was gross what the Blackhawks did, but this is why you do it, right? And I asked Nazar, I'm like, would you rather be like on Connor Bedard's wing or driving your own line when these guys come in? He's like, I see myself as a center. He's like, I can play anywhere. I pride myself in my ability to do that. But he sees himself as a center. The Hawks see him as a center. I think Frondel goes to Bedard's wing at the end of this year when he signs after the Swedish League season ends. Yeah. I'm sure he'll come out here for a few games. I think they put him on Bedard's wing and see what happens. Because the Bedard could be the center, but Frondel can still do the two-way play. I mean, we've seen that before where the center isn't really the center. Yeah. It could be one of those kinds of situations. And
we're all going towards positionless hockey anyway, so all of it's probably moot. Yeah. But the interesting point there, and you just mentioned this on your last pod too, it's like Frankie Nazar just took Connor Bedard's wingers from last season. Thanks, I'll take those.
Tyler Bertuzzi and Teuvo Teravainen were signed when Kyle Davidson couldn't land Jake Gensel. He quote unquote settled for Bertuzzi and Teravainen, kind of overpaid a little bit for each of them, maybe give them one more year than normal. Those are supposed to be Connor Bedard's line mates. Those guys are locked into Nazar's wing right. That is the second line, and that's not changing anytime soon.
Real quick, I've got like 30 seconds left with you, and we haven't even touched the back end, although we've mentioned Rinzel, who's been fantastic. Who's impressed you the most on that back end? Everybody's a giant, where everyone's a massive.
It's the giantest of them all. It's Louis Crevier. He was like 6'8".
6'8".
He was supposed to be he's a huge guy. He was supposed to be like the number 7 defenseman just because he's not waiver exempt anymore. And he was going to be a guy who can scratch, but they're going 11-7 every night because Crevier's been really good. He's got great reach. Someone hit Caden Gooley, hit Frank Nazar, and Crevier pounced him. Jeff Blashill loved that. Louis Crevier is he's covering himself out of role here.
Never a bad idea to protect the young superstar investment for the team. Wise move, Louis. Wise move. Mark, listen, the power rankings are awesome. You and Scotty with doing a great job as well. Continued success at the Athletic. The reads are great, and the podcast is fantastic. We'll catch up soon. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
There he is, the great Mark Lazerus, joining us here on the program. You can read him in The Athletic, and you can listen to him on the Athletic Hockey Show podcast, which is excellent. That was an interesting game last night. I'm not sure, Zach, if you checked that one out at all. There was probably there's probably too much conversation around the solo celebration. Though the one thing where I will give, because normally you want a player to stay in the scrum and stay in the fight, so to speak. He was pulled off by the official and sort of told to stay out of what was happening, even though, Teravainen was getting dragged. Was it Neighbors that was dragging him? Neighbors kicked the whole thing off. No, I think it was Jake Neighbors that grabbed Nazar and then started dragging Teravainen around. But nonetheless, this is a Blackhawks team that's like, it's different. Sure, they're 1 year older. There's more excitement in their games this year. They are starting to see some results. I know Colby Cohen doesn't want to hear it. He's going on about this the other day on Morning Cup of Hockey, but you're starting to see some tiny incremental gains. They've been in all their games, and we saw this early. We've seen this all season long, as short as this season has been so far, a week and a half. There haven't been those cringe moments that you saw with the Blackhawks last season or the season before. I don't know how many games they're going to win. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. And I also don't think they're going to get Gavin McKenna. But at the same time, this is a Chicago Blackhawks team that slowly but surely here is becoming one of the more intriguing teams to watch, because you can see what this thing, when it's finally actualized, is going to be like. And the one thing, and Mark touched on this too, the one thing about it is, it seems as if we can say this, there's too many young players. Where are you going to fit all these guys? Kyle Davidson and his scouting staff, bravo. They've really hit it here with a lot of these players. Not just drafting, I should mention too, but the Seth Jones trade is already paying off in paying off big time with Spencer Knight in net. And I think Blashill has been and will continue to be an excellent head coach with Chicago in his second go round as the bench boss of an NHL team. It's fun. Like, am I allowed to say the Blackhawks are fun to watch? Like, that was a fun game last night against the St. Louis Blues. Now, every time, and I'm from a certain vintage where every time I see Chicago and St. Louis get together, all I can think about is the Norris division, where if you had 60 points, you made the playoffs. Think about that for a second. I know they're the less game, there are fewer games, but 60 points and you would make the playoffs in that division. But all those games took like 4.5 hours, and each team had like 4 or 5 different sluggers on it, and the games were forever. But whenever I see St. Louis and Chicago, that great rivalry that's kind of been lost, and you hope we can get it back. Like, there have been a few rivalries that I think have been lost over the years. The New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins, a great rivalry, certainly the late 60s, early 70s. That's been lost in the modern NHL. Montreal-Detroit were a great rivalry for a lot of years. You hope that as those two teams continue to ascend in their rebuild, that we start to see, those embers get burning all over again. I mean, Montreal and Detroit have been tied in with a couple of major events outside of, competing for Stanley Cups in the 50s and 60s. The Richard Riot, that was a Detroit-Montreal game, and the infamous Patrick Waugh night at the Forum. That was a game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Detroit Red Wings. That used to be one of the big rivalries in the NHL. And as both those two teams ascend, and it's looking good right now early for both, and both teams are really fun to watch too. You hope that once lost rivalry in the NHL can finally come back. So we look forward to that. A couple of things still on the program today. We are standing by for Anton Thun, who you have seen and heard on the program before. You're going to be hearing from him in a couple of seconds. He's in transit today, but he's being generous with his time. So we're standing by for Anton. And a couple of things to talk about with him. And the big one is the nature of the contracts that we're seeing right now. And perhaps, and we got into this a little bit yesterday on the show, why they're being signed now. And why they're all sort of being signed at the same time. And did it just need one domino? I mean, Anton has been at this for a lot of years, doing contracts with players with M5, the agency that he had with Kent Hughes, now the general manager of the Montreal Canadiens. But why now, right? Like, it seems as if maybe you look at it and say, like, where's the pressure point? Maybe there's just a comfort point for both sides right now, this early in the season. I'm curious about Anton's thoughts on why this is happening at this point. And the other one, which is everybody has a different opinion on it. And all are valid because it's just your opinion. I have mine, you have yours, Anton will have his as well. Players that, while they negotiate contracts, have in the back of their head, I'm also the general manager here, and I'm going to help my team manage the cap. I know I've gone on about this a lot, and I think maybe me and Colby Cohen might be the only two here at Daily Faceoff that are really on the same page about it. But I'm not so sure, and I don't know how it happened. I don't know how it happened that players went from accepting a salary cap to then taking the next step and accepting a new title on their business card, which is assistant general manager, and assist the team that's negotiating with them to try to manage their salary cap. The only one that hasn't tried to help a team manage their salary cap is Kirill Kaprizov. And he might be the best player in the league right now. And when you talk about how important he is to the Minnesota Wild, by the very definition of what the MVP is, he has been that MVP. The definition of the Hart Trophy is MVP of the league. He has been that definition for the Minnesota Wild. And that's why I know we all sort of look sideways at it when Bill Guerin was saying, like, oh yeah, I sleep well at night. He really does mean that much to the Minnesota Wild. He's an exceptional player, and it's no surprise that they find themselves in the place that they are right now in their division, and he finds his place top of the goal scoring and points race. This segment, before we get to Anton, is a presentation of Bauer and the Bauer Pulse. The first Bauer stick to feature their latest kick point innovation, powered by 2 distinct energy zones in the shaft. The stick is designed to adapt to your game with loadability and precision of both a mid-kick, that's more for defenders, shots from the point, and the explosive, unexpected release of a low kick, that's for your wingers. Catch goaltenders by surprise with a quick shot they'll never see coming, or make dynamic plays in the zone that will have defenders scrambling. Combine all that with the new raised grip ink on the shaft, and Pulse will stay in your hands while you put the game in your hands. Exclusive to Bauer Hockey, the Pulse contains ultra-lightweight and rigid boron fiber material, which creates a high strength-to-weight ratio and optimizes energy storage and increases reactivity. Featured on 40 Flex sticks and above, the Bauer Pulse launches October 17th. For more information, check out Bauer.com. I feel like I could have just sort of read that off the top of my mind, because this is the stick that both my kids have been talking about non-stop. It officially launches tomorrow. With that, we'll bring aboard Anton Thun, former NHL player agent, who joins me now to talk about all things contract. But before we get there with Anton, first of all, good afternoon, Anton. Thanks so much for joining me here today. What was when you were playing hockey, or when you got in the agency business, do you remember what the big stick of the day was? Was it like the Sherwood 5030 PMP, or was it something else? Do you recall, going way back, what your first real big fancy stick was? We're having problems getting Anton on the phone here. What a great question to open up. Maybe he's just like so disgusted by the question he's hung up. We'll try to get Anton back. But yeah, very much looking forward to that, released by our friends at Bauer, and like to officially welcome them here as a sponsor of the program. So Anton is standing by. We'll get Anton wired up. He's very busy, and he's joining us en route somewhere. In the meantime, we will remind you of games around the NHL this evening, which include the Rangers and the Maple Leafs. This one's in Toronto, so the Rangers are allowed to score, right? We'll talk more about this coming up in the latter parts of the show today. The Nashville Predators and the Montreal Canadiens, as I mentioned off the top of the show, Marty St. running the stairs at the Bell Center. To which a lot of people said, calm down, he's just running the stairs. The Seattle Kraken facing off against the Ottawa Senators. Senators, not looking great news for Brady Tkachuk and the hand injury. Seattle Kraken have kind of been one of the bright spots in their division so far this season, with a record of 2-0-1. Joey Decord has early on distinguished himself as one of the top netminders in the NHL, and I can assure you Travis Green will not be thrilled at yesterday's result, and will expect something much different today, or tonight rather, at the Canadian Tire Center, as the Seattle Kraken face off against the Ottawa Senators. The Florida Panthers are in a world of bad themselves right now, dropping games to the Philadelphia Flyers, and last night to the Detroit Red Wings. They'll face off against the New Jersey Devils, Jets and Flyers, Avs and Blue Jackets, Oilers and the Islanders here. Islanders, by the way, the only team without a win so far this season. Vancouver, Dallas, Boston takes on the Vegas Golden Knights, the Battle of Cassidy. Carolina Hurricanes and the Anaheim Ducks. Pittsburgh Penguins take on the Los Angeles Kings. It is an 11-game schedule around the NHL. I believe we have Anton back. Anton, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me today.
I'm great, Jeff. How are you?
Good. Pleasure's all mine. I would just sort of ask you, do you recall the first big hockey stick, like big name hockey stick that you ever had?
I honestly don't. Quite honestly, I think it was a big tree trunk, and it was made of wood for sure. Yep. Obviously, as a tree trunk. And I can tell you, the first year I played rep hockey in my hometown of Thorold, I hated the stick that I got, and I tried breaking it over the net multiple times, and the damn thing wouldn't break.
It's so funny too, because I. At a charity game years ago, not that I'm any measure of a good hockey player, but this was up in actually was in Yukon, and we didn't bring our sticks, and so someone just went out to the local Canadian Tire and bought a bunch of wood sticks for us to use. And Anton, I hadn't used a wood stick in forever, and all I can remember was someone fired a pass to me, and it hit my blade, and it didn't bounce, it didn't wobble. the wood blade just sort of absorbed it. And I had just forgotten, like, Anton, how nice it felt to absorb a pass with a wooden blade. I keep saying this to my kids, like, guys, you gotta try like a wooden stick, and not a chance, Anton. Our kids going anywhere near wooden sticks, but man, when that puck hit the blade, it really was a great feeling.
A natural feeling.
Yeah, and it felt real good. Okay, so here's what I wanted to talk to you about today. I mean, you're the veteran of a lot of these discussions, at times arguments, at times wars between teams and players over contracts. And one of the things that we've been talking about, going back to Kaprizov / McDavid, which seem to be the two touchstones because both contracts are at loggerheads philosophically, somewhere along the way, after accepting a salary cap in 2005, players have also accepted a new responsibility, and that is assistant general manager of hockey teams. Like somehow it's their responsibility to help with the salary cap of their teams. When you look at what Connor signed for, what Jack Eichel signed for, Lane Hutson with the Montreal Canadiens coming in, quote unquote, undervalue, as someone who's done this for a long time, what went through your mind?
Disappointing, in all honesty. And listen, I think when I say disappointing, I'm talking about the philosophy that you just described, where players have developed a belief system that has been created by management and quite honestly has probably permeated through the media and the fan base to almost create an obligation on players to not get paid fair market value. And so you saw Kaprizov took big money. Connor took much less than he could have earned. Lane Hutson, depending on whether you're speaking on behalf of his agency or on behalf of the club, either took more than he was worth or less than he was worth. And I'll let the public decide which is right. But the notion that the best players in the world in the sport of hockey, unlike any other sport in the world or any other business in the world, should be held to account to take less than fair market value is nonsensical. It really is. And if the CBA said you can only take 15% rather than 20%, then go for 15%. The maximum is 20%. And for whatever reason, players and their agents have decided that it's not their responsibility to get paid in full. Mm-hmm. And I think that's foolish. And the notion that is, I guess, the standard mindset right now in the NHL is, well, you got to take less so you can build a team. You know what? It's the general manager is getting paid to build a team, not you. You're a player. You're an employee. And if the general manager can't do it, then the general manager should get fired or the president should get fired. And I understand why Connor did what he did. It's his absolute right to do so. The fact that the hockey world pressures players to take less than fair market value when if they were a basketball player, a football player, a soccer player, a tennis player, there would be no such pressure is nonsensical.
Is there I don't want to bias the jury here, so I'm just going to throw it out there. Is there a sense of, with the Connor McDavid contract specifically, that Connor McDavid internally feels he has to make up for the failings of his previous two general managers who weren't able to win with him at that decimal point?
Well, I think that's probably a public perception, and that may or may not be Connor's perception. I don't want to speak for Connor McDavid. I've never represented Connor, so I can't speak to him. But it's not only him that seems to have that belief. It's most players in the league, and they are, I guess, prolonging this economic system that requires the drivers of the league, which are the top, say, 20 players in the league, to be underpaid for the benefit of who? a fourth line guy, tell the general manager not to pay the fourth line guy $4 million and pay me, because I'm the guy that's scoring 120 points a season. So the mistakes of the general managers are being excused, and the elite players are being told they have to accept less.
One of the given that all, actually, let me back up 1 second. Do you have a theory or a thought on why these players are all signing right now? Like, there are some players, and I believe Lane Hutson was one of them, that didn't want this type of conversation around him in the public eye right now. He just wanted the conversation around him to be about hockey, and he didn't want any part of, being someone who's going to get, dragged through the media all season long about his contract extension, even though there was no pressure point for Lane Hutson. No pressure point for Lane Hutson until next September. But he just didn't want that conversation about his contract to be as public as it was, and he wanted to end it. But do you have an idea of like why it seems like right now, and we're expecting more to happen, all these players seem to be falling, or signing rather, domino style in the league right now?
I honestly, listen, I don't know the answer to that, because I'm not as close to these players as I used to be. I think at the end of the day, the money that's being offered to players who have never had money because they're coming out of, let's understand the system that exists in the NHL is that the players who are signing their second contracts are truly hitting their first home runs. The majority of other sports don't have as restrictive a system on signing bonuses and entry-level salaries as hockey does. It's a very extreme restrictive system where you're not making that much money when you're Lane Hutson or Connor Bedard or Adam Fantilli or Leo Carlson or any of these star young players, Frankie Nazar, for example. And so that first contract coming out of the entry-level system, when somebody's offering you 50 or 60 or $70 million, that's newfound money. In other sports, where when you sign your first contract in basketball and you're guaranteed $20 million already, okay, without having played a game, and the same thing in football and the same thing in baseball, the second contract is a different negotiation than your first contract, right? And so in hockey, it's very, very tempting. And the Lane Hutsons and Frankie Nazars who are signing early are taking the money. Right now you have others. I think I mentioned Fantilli, Bedard, Leo Carlson. I have no idea what their contract negotiation status is right now, but they may not take that money, and they may play out the season and see what happens come at the end of the season. And in most cases, I would recommend that they do that, because if you believe in yourself, the market's just going to change upward. And I think the other thing that contrasts Lane Hutson's situation to some of those others that have not signed yet is, as much as Lane Hutson doesn't want to be the focal point in Montreal and doesn't want to create noise in Montreal, there's noise. You know that there was noise all summer long. Okay. And that noise was created by a multiple of factors, including agents, including the team, including Lane's dad. The only person who didn't create any noise was Lane.
Was Lane. It's a great point. Well, one of the things that I'd be curious of, because we could be heading here into next summer where everybody has cap space, but there's no one really to spend the money on at the high end. If you represented player X, and let's say player X is a point per game winger / center, whatever, first line, would you be advising your client, unless your team offers you just a home run, complete life-changing deal, go to market on July 1st? Because the big ones are gone. We all wondered about 2026. Oh, Connor McDavid's going to be available. Jack Eichel, Kirill Kaprizov, all these guys are going to be available. Well, they're not. would you be advising your client, unless you have like something that's going to give you generational wealth, hang on until July 1st?
Yeah, listen, I think at the end of the day, if you are a young, talented player that does not have an injury history, and all the cards seem to be, turning up aces for you, just play. The market's going to go up. We've already seen the upper limit go up this year. It's going to go up next year. It's going to go up the following year. It's going to go up by leaps and bounds because there's a catch up that's taking place from the COVID season.
Yep.
And that catch up is going to put money in the players' pockets. The teams are going to spend that money. At least most of the teams are going to spend that money. And bet on yourself.
Bet on yourself. There's more than a few guys saying that to themselves right now. Anton, I know this is a really busy day for you, and you've squeezed in some time for me. I really appreciate it. Thanks for sharing your expertise, and we'll catch up soon.
My pleasure, Jeff. Take care. All the best to you and your listeners.
Thank you, sir. That is Anton Thun, former NHL player agent, who's been like, I used to love listening. I've mentioned this on the program before, I think, Zach. One of my favorite, because I was a dyed-in-the-wool primetime sports listener, always listened to Bob McCown. And when they would do roundtables and Anton Thun was on, a lot of it would have been around lockout 204, 205, just some of the most engaging, thoughtful, from the trenches kind of perspective. Like Anton was in the middle of so many of these negotiations. And that we should point out too, that agency, for those that don't know, that he owned by the name of M5, that was him and Kent Hughes. That was then sold to Cortex. And then Kent ended up going to the Montreal Canadiens. And then, as we pointed out before, ended up negotiating against Cortex and Sean Coffey specifically in the Lane Hutson deal, which was a real interesting dynamic. And I've been racking my brain trying to find another example of it, of a mentor negotiating with his mentee, which I assure you doesn't happen very often. But there it was, and Lane Hutson got his deal done. Anything from Anton or from Laz that, because I haven't had a chance to talk to you here yet, Zach. Anything sort of tickle your chin at all with those two gentlemen?
I mean, back to Laz, just talking about who plays where when all these guys come in, and everybody fitting into centers and wings is going to
Everybody's
be very,
a center.
very...
Everybody wants to be a center.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what?
How
How
really
about that?
Interesting situation to stick handle.
How about that? When have you ever heard a team say, you know what our problem is? We have too many centers. I assure you, a team has never said we have too many centers. Or we have too many goalies. What? What? You have too many goalies.
I know. I'm with you. I know. It was wild.
That'll be an interesting one. All right, a couple of things here on the program before I wrap things up for today. I want to be sensitive about your time. Greg Wyshynski does return. He says next week he's only taking 1 week off. Greg became a dad again. Like, Greg, take a couple of weeks off. Like, these are the most important moments with you and your young son. Like, you just take it. But he maintains he's coming back next week.
The way you just said that.
What?
The way he just said that, I know what you're saying. You
What
said he became a dad again. You know what it reminded me of is like when guys say former first overall pick. And it's like,
you're always a first overall
pick. The guy was a first overall pick. He is a first overall pick. It's like, he's still a dad. He became a dad again.
Am I going to have to go over my pet peeve about slot area? I hear it every single night. I watch hockey, just like you, Zach, and everybody watching and listening right now. We all watch hockey every single night. This is my plea to broadcasters. This is my plea to play-by-play people out there. Pass this on to them if they don't hear it from my voice. When I hear slot area, all I think of is, oh, you mean the slot? What is the difference?
I know.
Between, oh, look, the goalie's there in the crease area. What? Pass goes back to the blue line area. What? But slot area gets a free pass.
Yep. I know. but I just became a dad again. I could think that was the same path that I just went down in my head.
Okay.
I know exactly what you were saying, and I'm not. Yeah. I'm being a dick by bringing that up, but that was what I thought about. I'm like, this is Mr. Slot Area. You don't say that, dad again.
Not only am I Mr.
He's still a dad.
Area, I'm Mr. If they're all joined together, why are they called apartments guy? I'm also that guy too. And I'm also the...
Yeah, but it's the same thing as like the drive on the freeway.
Yeah.
Drive on the parkway, park on the driveway. Yeah.
The one that really makes no sense. How is it possible to take an elevator or an escalator down?
So you want a...
How do you elevate downwards?
De-elevator, de-escalator?
Correct.
The de-escalator would be hilarious.
That's what you got to start calling it now. But like, how is it?
The de-escalator.
Yeah. How is it possible? I'm just going to take the elevator down. What? By definition, it's elevating something. I'm going to take the escalator down. You're going to what?
I'm with you there.
Dumbest language ever. Somehow we're able to function and make it through a day. But like the sounds that we agree to make to one another, the sounds we agree to make to one another could not be stupider. This language, I swear, the worst.
I would agree.
Just the dumbest. All right, this one's gonna be fun here, I think. Okay, so how are we framing this one with the stats for Uber Eats? Let me get this one out of the way. So, Crave the stats, okay? Which is really going to sort of, I think, morph into Crave the stories. But here we go. Crave the stats, or as my kids would say, Crave the snacks, is a presentation of Uber Eats. Uber Eats is enabling fans to maximize their fandom all season long with exclusive game day deals on the app. From game day eats to paper plates and napkins, if you're hosting, to all the ingredients you need to make your own favorite game day dip. Before, during, and after the game, Uber Eats is assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long. You know, whenever I hear like sports parties, my buddy Matt used to do, I think he still does it. Ever tell you the story he used to do around the Super Bowl and the Grey Cup? To have all of his buddies together?
No.
This would be great for Uber Eats to fuel. And they would put out, like 10 buddies, and they'd all put in $100. And they have like the whole thing, like chicken wings and nachos and chips and like all the beer, like the whole, all the stuff that you'd expect at a football party for the Super Bowl or the Grey Cup. What they do is they'd each throw in $100. And before the opening kickoff, they'd all weigh themselves. And after kickoff, they'd all start eating. And then at the end of the game, they'd all get back on the scale. And whoever's put on the most weight gets the pot.
Okay. This is really stupid, and I'm gonna keep note of this one and remind my buddies this year. And
do it.
This might be something I do so that we can bring this back and I can discuss results on the show.
Oh yeah, you would do that, right? You're young and dumb enough.
100%.
And you'd like
young
work
enough.
it off.
Young enough. I don't know. I'm gonna feel like shit. I will say that because I'm starting to have that. Like I played hockey last night. I woke up this morning. I was like, wow, my hip kind of sore. Like,
welcome to it, bud.
God.
Yeah. Little boys all growing up.
Yes.
Okay. Little boys all growing up. That's awesome. All right. So what do we have today then for Crave the Stats / Crave the Stories?
Okay, so as you said, they crave the stories. I'm trying to find things that are interesting here, and also will tickle you a little bit, make you happy, because that's what I try to do every day,
buddy.
A little bit at least.
Trying to get through a day.
I did say some stupid stuff on the show today, maybe bother you a little bit, but we've had Chris Mason on the show. Yeah. Whoops.
Thanks. He already talked. Yeah. he already said some words. I don't know why you want him again. He talked already. Thanks.
I figure when we do the Crave the Stat of the day, we could try to pull something historical that relates to the day of. And I tried to do that a little bit with Thanksgiving one, and I'll keep going with that.
Do it.
Crave the Stats. October 16th in history. I pulled 3 good ones here I think you'll like a lot. So quickly, I'll just run through them. 1946, Gordie Howe scored his first NHL goal in his very first game, 3-3 tie against the Leafs. 1968, Leafs rookie Jim Dorey, very popular figure on the show for the past 2 weeks,
why?
Logged a memorable debut with 48 penalty minutes, 4 minors, 2 majors, 2 misconducts, and a game misconduct. Yep. And then last year, Sidney Crosby passed 1,600 NHL points in overtime, and Malkin scored his 500th career goal. Those all happened on this day in NHL history.
Let me color in the middle one there. 1968, Jim Dorey, whose nickname, as we all know, we've been talking about this program, whether it, we're going with here, whether it was Calgary or Vegas. His nickname was Flipper. Now, Flipper, Jim Dorey, just also happened to be one of the toughest defensemen in any league that he was in. In the minors, in the NHL, the WHA, you did not mess with Jim Dorey. I think his D partner was Brad Selwood, a couple of players that escaped from your Maple Leafs to the WHA, along with other defensemen like Rick Lee, which pretty much guaranteed that your Maple Leafs were not going to win a Stanley Cup in the 1970s. Sorry about that, but Harold competed against the salaries in the WHA. So in that game, his first game, he's playing against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And here's how it all started. It's a guy by the name of Ken Schenkel. And so Dorey had, I think it was 2 minors or 3 minors already, and Schenkel deliberately stepped on Jim Dorey's stick, dove, I think he admitted it later, totally dove, drew another penalty, and as he got up, he goes, kid, that's your 3rd minor or 4th minor or whatever it was. I guess you're going back to the minors on that one. There's no way you're staying up here. So Flipper flips out and goes after him. Keith McCreary jumps in. Dorey starts fighting him, and then fights a guy by the name of John Arbour, who was probably not the biggest guy on the ice, but John Arbour was tough. He was part of that Niagara Falls Flyers, Edmonton Oil Kings brawl of 1965, the Memorial Cup, where cops actually hit the ice. I have the video, Zach. We should play it here once. That's with the Sanderson-Falkenberg incident, which is still the most vicious thing I've ever seen in hockey, but I digress. The other great Jim Dorey story, so that's how he got all those PIMs. He just fought everybody and took a bunch of minors, and Ken Schenkel started it off by stepping on his stick and then mocking Flipper because of it. And he was called Flipper because he could flip the puck higher than anybody else and got the puck out of the zone clear, and I still don't know why more players don't use the space above on a more consistent basis, but I digress. You know what he did once in a WHA game? I think Dorey would have been playing for Toronto at this point, and I think Gordie Machine Gun Gallant would have been playing with the Quebec Nordiques of the WHA. But Gallant had gone after one of Dorey's younger teammates, and his coach told him to do something about Gallant. Now, normally a player would think, okay, I got to attack him, I got to fight him, or do something like that. You know what Dorey did? He led a 3-man rush through the neutral zone, stopped at the penalty box, which was open in those days, not glassed in, turned, took a slap shot at the penalty box, and Gordie Gallant got out of the way and it hit a cameraman. And Dorey got fined like $10,000 for hitting a cameraman. Can you imagine someone leading a rush, stopping at center ice, turning, and firing the puck in the penalty box? Jim Dorey, baby. Jim Dorey.
So I can, and I won't say the guy's name. Someone I was good friends with had a switch growing up playing hockey. He was playing AAA for one organization and got cut and went to a different organization. And in his
fired
first
on the bench?
game back at the coach of the former team. Yes. Yes. Missed him. But so when you say, can you imagine? That's one rare occasion. Yes.
So I'm trying to find out where this game was. So if it was Toros / Bulls, John Garrett could have been the goaltender. And so I sent Cheech a note about an hour ago saying, were you in the game where Jim Dorey took the slap shot at Gordie Gallant in the penalty box? And he gave me the most WHA answer of all time. I can't remember that one, but it's probably true. Most WHA answer ever from John Garrett. When I saw that one pop up on the rundown, I'm like, oh yeah, we're talking about Flipper. I get my Jim Dory story out. That was.
There's some other ones on there, like for today in history, and I was like, okay, we can get to some of those. I try to grab some throughout time here, but I'm like, that one has to be in here. Like you're gonna need to say something or see that one's on the sheet, and that one was something from today. So I think chat liked this one. I'm glad you liked that one. Something we'll try.
Chat loved it. Slap shots in the penalty box. Pre-glass penalty box. Fire pucks in there. Yeah. All right. All right, chat. Doing that one for you. More stories coming up as we do this. I like this feature. Just let me gush out some history stuff. Okay, a couple of things here before we wrap things up. And I do want to play part of James Van Riemsdyk on Morning Cup of Hockey, who was excellent. Justin Williams was on as well. Highly encourage you, if you didn't watch or listen to it live, to go to the archives and check it out. It's great. The sheet is powered by FanDuel, 11 games tonight. Home of the same game parlay. Make every moment more on FanDuel. FanDuel, proud to connect fans to the major sports moments that matter to them. What is jumping out at you tonight other than the Rangers will score a goal because they're not at MSG?
Insane that you just said that. Very in sync here today, Jeff, because I always do the board and I do the games of the day. This one I very specifically did the goal scorers for the Rangers-Leafs game. I was like, I'm going to change it up because the Rangers can't score at home and they're playing on the road. I wanted to bring up the board and ask you.
Well, Cooley's getting a hat trick.
But, who's scoring?
Well, Cooley's getting a hat trick. Come on, right in front of all those guys from Wasserman. Yeah, for sure. Well, Cooley's getting a hat trick.
Yeah. It was kind of funny that ends up happening. But, yeah, I just brought up this sheet. I was like, man, the Rangers can't score at home. They're on the road. Somebody from the Rangers is scoring. And then I was looking around. I'm like, some of these are kind of funny. Like, William Nylander is like plus 180. You're getting a little bit higher on him. Austin Matthews plus 135. I thought both guys started to look a little bit better the other day. I know who's in net for the Rangers, so let's make sure we're clear on that. But
especially that empty netter by Austin Matthews. Was he dying for that one? If you're going to score 60 goals in a season, maybe you're not as aggressive as you were on that one. But that one just told me nothing's guaranteed this year. I got to get all the cookies I can.
Well, as the boys on Morning Take pointed out, Matthews was he scored 35 goals. I think it was the final number last season. Yeah. He's on pace for 41 empty netters this year. So we'll take him where we can get him.
That's awesome. Rosie wasn't too thrilled to Frankie Nazar last night, eh?
No, he did it in the nice, most polite way possible, which was pretty funny. I was watching Leafs Morning Take, and Alberg asked him about it, and he kind of did the Rosie. He's like, it's modern day player.
You know what Alberg has got to start doing? Here's what Nick's got to start doing. I'm just going to give Nick public advice, how to handle Rosie in situations like that. Nick's got to say things like this. Hey, Rosie, pretend you've had 8 beers right now and answer this question. What did you think of Frankie Nazar's one-man Celly last night?
Nazar party of one. Nazar party of one.
What did you think of that last night?
Yeah, and then that's when they're gonna do the Mitch Hedberg Marek search party of
that's
one.
Right. The Dufresnes. Who can eat at a time like this? We have to find the Dufresnes. The Dufresnes are missing. What happened to the Dufresnes? Yep, there goes Zach, folks.
At a time like this. I love
Who can eat? Who can eat at a time like this?
Who can eat?
People are missing.
Yeah, Rosie was not. Rosie was not. He didn't. Let's just say he didn't love it. He didn't freak out or anything, but he didn't love it. He did just land in Italy though. He's there on vacation. Did the show from his hotel in Italy.
Is he there to inspect the rink that everyone's grousing about already?
Yeah, I did see that. I did see all that.
Just me, you know what?
That's been taking place.
This happens every year. Because this was the conversation too. I'm not saying that it's not true, and who knows? It may just be awful by the time they get there. But the same thing happened in Sochi. Remember, we're 8 months out, and the rink's not built. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
This happens all the time with the Olympics.
I do remember that. Also, this is all right. Here, ready? Hockey dumb. Let's bookend the show with this.
Oh yeah, hockey dumb. Let's go.
This is how my brain thinks about this one.
Okay.
I understand the general concern. Like, I'm on board with that. I am on the same page. This is not a country foreign to ice rinks. Like, they have hockey rinks. They understand building them and the severity.
They played pro
of
hockey
it
there
and what it
forever.
takes.
Ron Wilson
Right.
used to, hang on, Ron Wilson used to play there. I think Minnesota North
buddy
Stars
just
hit him
played
there
there
for a
last
year.
year.
Like when the Oilers were hiding Reijo Ruotsalainen in Finland, Minnesota North Stars would hide Ron Wilson all year long in Italy. I seem to recall. God, it's like 81.
I didn't know that.
And he'd play, yeah, and he'd play in Italy, then come back for the playoffs. Okay, Lou, ready to go, bud. The same way Edmonton would do with Reijo Ruotsalainen. Oh yeah, bud. That's why they have the cutoff date, past which you can't play in the playoffs. Because of those donkeys doing that back in the day, just hiding guys all over the world. Oh yeah, go on vacation.
But you understand what I'm saying, right? Like they're like, it's not like they're like, oh, we've never built hockey rinks before. Whatever shall we do? Like, I get the concern. I'm on the same page, but like I'm of the belief it's gonna get done. It's gonna be okay. We'll be fine.
If you're hosting the Winter Olympics, important not to lose the recipe for ice. If you're hosting the Winter Olympics,
that would be important. Yeah, you think that would be pretty important.
You're not doing this in like Rio de Janeiro. What do we do for ice here on this one? Can we play the clip really quickly to wrap up the program today? Because I just want to mention that he's going to be a regular on Morning Cup of Hockey. James Van Riemsdyk made his debut today with our Impact players, Johnny Lazarus and Colby Cohen, on Morning Cup of Hockey. Here is part of the conversation discussing his goal the other night against Zach's Toronto Maple Leafs.
And I'm curious because there is history, and I think at least you and Morgan Riley are pretty good buddies, if I recall. Did you chirp him at all or talk any shit to him about that goal or have any words for him after that? Because that was like almost like a duel between two friends, that play.
No, for sure. I think right when I got that puck, like I saw the D his D partner kind of fall a little bit, and I was thinking pass the whole way, and it was a little cat and mouse, I think, as far as he wasn't sure if I was just going to try to take it right to the net or make the play. So I'll definitely have to let him know about that next time I see him. But no, I think the fact that it was a little bit of that hybrid 2-on-1 gave me just that extra room, and just it's always any chance to get to score in that building, to play in that building, like it's obviously you guys, I think I've mentioned this before to you guys, but just how much I loved my time there, and it's always a special place for me to go back and play. So to kind of have my first game of the season be in that building, and to get a goal like that and a big win, like that was a nice way to get the year going, and hopefully I can continue to kind of keep the snowball rolling down the hill from there.
James Van Riemsdyk of the Detroit Red Wings. You want to hear a great story about Van Riemsdyk? Zach, of course you do.
Yes, please.
Everybody in the chat right now, everybody watching, everybody listening, want to hear a story about James Van Riemsdyk? So he was traded for Luke Schenn in that famous Toronto-Philadelphia trade, and that was the draft in Pittsburgh. That would have been 2012, I believe. And Berkey told me, he might have actually told this one on the show too, that there were a lot of Maple Leafs fans there for that draft, like a huge section of Maple Leafs fans. So he said he wouldn't finalize the deal with Paul Holmgren until they left the rink. They weren't going to do it there because Berkey didn't. He said, I didn't want to get booed because Luke Schenn was so popular and so loved in Toronto. But they get a chance to get James Van Riemsdyk. That he's like, we did the trade in the car on the way to the airport because I didn't want to get booed in Pittsburgh. That's why it did happen on the floor. The other thing,
I don't think he's told it here, but it's so funny.
We'll ask him about it next Wednesday then, about the James Van Riemsdyk deal. Yeah, he's like, I didn't want to get booed. I didn't want to piss off all of our Maple Leafs fans, so I just did it in the car on the way. Like, all right, Homer, we're ready to do the deal now. You know what's great about Van Riemsdyk with the Maple Leafs and other teams too? You'll know this as someone who played. The Coffee Boys will know this certainly too. One of the great things about Van Riemsdyk was retrievals on the power play. When a puck misses the net on the power play, it's going in the corner or it's going behind the net. Van Riemsdyk was awesome at retrievals. Like, I don't know how many extra shots he accounted for. But if one great retrieval can lead to like 3 or 4 more chances or 3 or 4 more shots, as a coach or teammate, anyone in the organization, you know how valuable that is? Of course you do. Like he said, I remember like Berkey telling me back then, it's like, this guy at retrievals is spectacular. He's like, he's going to account for so many more shots on the power play and just keep our zone time hot. And we don't have to worry about zone entries because this guy is dynamic at retrievals. Anyway, one of the little, that's you know what, something like that is something like Laz and Colby spit out because they're like players and that's how they think and that's the nature of their questioning. Great puck retrievals. That's what I'm adding to the conversation today. And slap shots at guys in penalty boxes. That's what I'm contributing to the conversation today. Jim Dory.
Probably
Gordy
better
Glenn.
than what I contributed, the stupid comment.
Oh, Chris Mason. He's been on.
I just was thinking, I'm like, I don't know, maybe you're thinking like we haven't had him. I'm trying to remind you. And then I realized as soon as it came out of my mouth, that's not what was being said. And I was like, that was dumb. Let's move on.
My oldest son, like his first day at JK, I'm like, all right, next day. He's like, all right, you ready to go back? He goes, go back? I went yesterday. What do you mean go back? Every day. What? I went yesterday.
That's good. That's good.
And by the way, you came really close to saying another pet peeve term of mine that we hear all the time in hockey.
That?
General consensus. As opposed to what other kind of consensus would there be? Think of all the times you said general consensus. Our language has ghosts, Zach. Our language has ghosts. I can do a whole rundown of different goofy stuff tomorrow. Why don't we do that to kick off the show tomorrow? Dumb hockey terms.
This is going in the book.
I'll make a list.
You got to save this so that we can
make
put
a
it
list.
in the book.
I'll make a list of all the dumb hockey terms that just are so empty calorie and ghost filled. They just be like, yeah, we say some stupid stuff. We really do. It's kind of dumb.
This is going in the Christmas book we're selling this year. Americisms. Half of it is things that you say like that, and then half of it's things you hate like that.
Yeah. From the Department of Redundancy Department. Yeah. What's that? Who we got in the chat going? Amel?
Amel. Zach, we have a meeting right now. Wrap it up.
Is he chirping you in the chat about getting to a meeting? Why don't I just stay on the air to screw our boss? You know all those bad air checks you gave me, Amel? All those, whether it was on 32, whether it was here. You're just going to wait for your meeting with Zach. He's on my time right now. What's your meeting about? Sorry, why don't we do the meeting on the air?
It's me.
Is this the producers' meeting?
But it's just the three of us in Toronto, and Vic's also in the chat. So,
okay.
I don't know.
Pretty fast and loose with your managers, but okay, all right. That's my cue to get off the stage. Leave the stage while they're still clapping, Marek. Leave the stage while they're still clapping. Thanks to Mark Lazerus from The Athletic for stopping by the program today. Thanks to Anton Thun, former NHL agent, for stopping by the program today. And mainly thank you for being part of it today, either in the chat, watching live on YouTube, in the archives. Please hit subscribe. We'd love to have you subscribed here and part of our family at Daily Faceoff. And you know all the janitorial work to do if you're listening to us on podcast, either it's Apple Pods or at Spotify or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for the buns and the use of the hall. Tip your Zamboni driver on the way out. We're back tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern, for the sheet. Jeff Marek along with you. Hope you enjoyed the program today. If you did, or maybe even if you didn't, they can't all be gems, folks. Please hit the subscribe button. Also a reminder, every morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Johnny Lazarus, Colby Cohen, I call them the Impact Players. You might know them as a tandem that makes up the Morning Cup of Hockey. Also DFO Live at noon Eastern. This year, your host Tyler Yaremchuk alongside Carter Hutton. Full day's worth of programming right here on Daily Faceoff, your favorite YouTube hockey channel. And as a reminder as well, Zach Phillips, our producer here for the sheet, said if you subscribe, he'll buy you a puppy.